Hey guys, I want to do a review of class 1 with a video format. I know that I got a little remote here that I'll be using just from my notes and stuff, but I want to do a review of class 1 via video. I have it also online on the website. Maybe it's mindfulness.com. Make sure you subscribe to get the updates, any events. I know I've talked about I'll be doing classes in the green room in a different space. Right now looking for 10 to 15 people. So if you're interested in that, shoot me an email. All my stuff's on the website. So let's get into it. Class 1 of MBSR, Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction. Class 1, Mindful Awareness. And the theme with class 1 is there's more right with you than wrong, as long as you're breathing. And that's directly from Jon Kabat-Zinn in his book, Full Catastrophe Living. And so what we're talking about in this class is the beginning stages of what is mindfulness? What does that word actually mean? And how can we use it to address our stress and other emotions and sensations that are arising up inside of us? So the first step, or the first thing, is what is mindfulness or mindful awareness? And Jon Kabat-Zinn defined mindful awareness as the awareness that arises from paying attention on purpose in the present moment, non-judgmentally. And that's also from his book, Full Catastrophe Living. And this is a fundamental approach to addressing what's happening inside of us. Now, why is that? Because oftentimes when we feel stress or a day-to-day, just say with or without stress, our minds kind of jump back and forth, whether it's worrying about the future and something that's going to happen, or hanging on to something in the past and reacting, or habitually reacting. Sometimes we don't even know that we're reacting. That's the way that we don't have to react that way. So by using mindfulness, by that definition, we're beginning to just take a look at what's really happening inside of us in this moment. And so once again, we're starting to condition that, and that takes practice, because most of us, myself included, live in the past and the future, sort of darting back and forth. So the idea behind MBSR is that we are starting to condition this modality and this way of life. And this first class is about discussing that and sort of what it might look like for someone to begin cultivating this type of awareness and this focused observation of our sensory experiences. What's really happening out there? How does it really affect us? So, for example, in the first class, we use oftentimes, and we don't in the gym classes just because of timing, but in the full MBSR class, we use a single raisin. And we will sort of deconstruct and dissect this little tiny piece of fruit from just getting to know it. Most of the time you look at a raisin or a piece of fruit and you say, I know what that is. I like it or I don't like it, and either eat it or put it to the side. So in this case, we're taking a mindful approach to eating, in this case, a raisin. And when we do that, oftentimes there's a lot there that we may not have missed. And it's, as we condition this, it's kind of amazing how incredible what's happening in the moment is. Just this little raisin, the getting to know the texture and the color, and the just noting where the little kind of belly button thing where the vine or the branch was attached to it. So then we take it one step farther and we let a little bit of the story come, and there's how did this raisin get into my hand? From the grocery store to the distributor to the farm to the guy or woman that picked the raisin from the vine. It started out as, I think most raisins started out as a grape. So we start to, once again, cultivate this sort of awareness. And as we condition this in our minds and begin staying more and more in the present moment, we sometimes can notice how the rest of our life is very much like that, just from an interaction with a friend or a family member, or the name of the class is Stress Reduction, from instances that maybe aren't so pleasant. And what we're doing is, once again, we are conditioning this ability to stay in the moment and kind of using everything that's in the present as a way to do that. And when we start flooding our minds with the present moment, we begin to find that we're not so much caught up in our thoughts and in our imagination. And some people find that when they apply this level of focus and concentration to anything, to whatever they're doing, they find that it's some of their best work, whatever that situation or particular task is. If you've ever heard of being in the zone, or if you think about a time when you just nailed it. I mean, you knocked it out of the park, and it was one of your best presentations or projects, or you had a really great conversation with somebody. If you take a moment to just think, where was my mind? Where was my mind when I had this optimal experience at whatever I was doing? And you may find that it probably wasn't worrying about something that might happen, or something that was in the past, or afraid of something you have to do later or next week. So these correlations and connections start to arise in all parts of our life. And once again, it's important to, especially in the first class, to understand being patient and gentle with ourselves. This stuff is, we've been doing what we've been doing for our whole life, and it takes practice. It's just like anything else. We spoke about in class how it's very much like learning how to play an instrument or learning to type. That when you start pressing the keys, when you first learn how to type, you just kind of like G, 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 F, F, F. And you might have been thinking at that time, there's no way I'm going to be able to do this without touching the keys. And over time and practice, you started to make connections. Your motor skills and muscle memory for your fingers kind of started to just respond to what it was that you were supposed to type. And this, believe it or not, this works very much the same way. It's worked very much the same way for me. And it's really cool because it's cumulative, and life, as we all know, keeps coming. So there's plenty of time to practice. We have formal practices, home practices, and I'll talk about that in just a second here, but just remembering that one key thing, that bringing ourselves back to the present moment, whether it's in day-to-day life or in home practice, is just as much a part and just as important as the object that we're concentrating on. So if we're in an awareness of breath meditation, right? It's not, oh no, I had to keep bringing myself back to the breath. That wasn't a good meditation. If you noticed that you had to keep bringing yourself back to the breath, that was a great meditation, because that coming back and that welcoming is just as much a part of the practice as focusing on the breath. So, and this is just a brief rundown. Please feel free to email or contact me any way that suits you for any further questions, and inquire about any of the classes and when those are and all that stuff. I'll be posting up more and more content and information on the website as time goes. It's just, as most of you know, I am a full-time personal trainer, so just kind of juggling and all, but it's a labor of love, so I love to hear from you guys. So let's get into the home practice for this week, for week 1. Like I said again, we can do this stuff till the cows come home, and we can sit for an hour a week. But just like exercise, once again, just like learning how to play an instrument, we need to begin to apply this to our everyday life, even if it's only for a couple minutes a day, even if we only brought ourselves back a couple of times. Let's just be mindful of being mindful. And it's cumulative. In the beginning, just like learning anything else, it seems like it's never going to happen, but just remember that typing or learning to play that instrument, like brr, brr, brr. Like, I'm never going to make anything sound good out of this. But over time, things start to click. This works very much the same way. So, home practice is going to be this week. Excuse me. I am new at this. So, mindful eating. So just like we discussed in class 1 at the gym meditation, is mindful eating. And so just give a brief rundown of that. When we're eating, let's try to focus in on what's happening in the present moment. All too often, I know that I'll just shovel the food in my mouth. I'll be reading, news or something on my phone, and instead of going and then letting my mind run wild with everything that I'm reading, and oh no, and the world's ending and la-di-da and all that good stuff, instead of just saying, hey, what's happening right now? Usually when we're eating, it's a really nice moment, and it's very peaceful, because ideally, and I'm definitely guilty of it, eating in the car and on the go, but for the most part, try to just spend that time and see what's happening. How does the food taste? And how does it taste versus how does it smell? What's the sensation on the tongue? Where are we feeling that? And what's the correlation of smell, taste, texture, and what's happening inside of us as we're taking this in, this food in. And also an awareness of breath meditation. And this can be from 1 to 45 minutes. And try to do this every day. Even if it's only for a couple of minutes, even if it's just a mindful walk. Just try to begin to incorporate this stuff in your life. And you may find that as we get to know the present moment, that it's a pretty peaceful place, and it's always accessible, and it's always there for us. But once again, thanks guys. I will be putting up reviews of all the classes and also other specific things. If you have questions, once again, feel free to reach out. Don't forget to subscribe and get those updates. I'll be putting a lot of stuff out there on the blog. If there's anything that you want to throw up there, comments and poems or anything that speaks to you, please feel free to let let that flow and put it out there. I love to hear it. All right. Thanks, guys. We'll see you soon. Bye now.